What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I would like to welcome you all to another edition of Wayne's Perspective, where we operate in discipline, decency, integrity, and respect. Um, Hope everybody is doing good. As for me, you know how I do, one day at a time. But overall, I'm doing okay up in here, up in Richmond, Virginia, the 804 area. Today's video is going to be another reaction video. Seems like I'm starting to like doing these, so I may do more, as the days and weeks go by. But today is going to be another um reaction video. I am going to use a clip from MSNBC, and of course, fair uses for that. This is going to be done by Joy Reid, and I've been having my issues with Joy Reid within recent months, but I am going to let this one play out. And the other reporter that's going to be with her, Yasmin, she's pretty good. But like I said, I'm going to let this one play and share this with you all, and of course, have my thoughts. But this is from a couple of days ago, and this is during the Donald Trump trial up in New York, and apparently someone decided to travel from Florida and in a I don't even know how to describe this decision, decided to set themselves on fire to make a point or something like that. I'm not sure if any of you heard of this, but we're going to take a look at it right now. So allow me one moment to get my screen shared, and we're going to take a look at this here. Unbelievable. All right, so here we go.
And we begin tonight with our new reality as a country and in the media as our first ever criminal trial of a former U.S. president is slated to get underway bright and early Monday.
And again, fair usage
morning in the state of New York versus Donald Trump. The jury of 12 plus 6 alternates was sworn in this afternoon, much more quickly than almost anyone expected. But the reality that we're now faced with is that my industry, the media, which has struggled with how to cover a former president who fomented an actual insurrection and is running for president again, now has to figure out how to cover the absolute spectacle of him being on trial. The historic undertaking is understandably attracting a global media presence, which of course is what Trump wants and thrives on. Expect him to use the media packed outside the courtroom to do his Trump show every day of the trial.
Of course.
But the crush of media gathered in Manhattan is far outpacing the population of what Donald Trump also wanted to see. He had called for a massive outpouring of his supporters to rise up while he's stuck in the courtroom. But the designated protest area across the street that he wanted to be filled with his fans has been anything but. Only a few dozen people showed up earlier in the week, vastly outnumbered by the crush of reporters.
That's a pathetic showing, but okay.
But the designated protest area is a space for anyone who wants to make a point, whatever that point may be, with a massive throng of cameras and reporters from around the world just across the street. That is what happened today, minutes after the full jury was impaneled inside the courthouse. Now, I should warn you, the following image is graphic. It shows a man who set himself on fire in that designated protest area.
Look at that. That is unbelievable. But I'm gonna let Joy Reid continue, and then, like I said, I got my thoughts on this one. But let's continue.
Yeah. The man was taken to a hospital. He is alive and in critical condition. Police have identified him as Maxwell Azzarello of St. Augustine, Florida. He had arrived in New York sometime earlier in the week. 3 law enforcement officers told NBC News that he may have posted his intention to set himself on fire in advance on his Substack. And while the investigation is ongoing, it definitely raises concerns, not just about the security and safety of those involved with the trial itself. It raises that other point that I mentioned about what the spectacle of the Trump trial of the 21st century might attract over the next several weeks, and the question of why a young man would self-immolate in the park.
We do not believe he is, this was targeting any particular person or any particular group. We just right now labeling it as a sort of a conspiracy theorist.
Now, of course, you hear that, conspiracy theorists. I mean, I keep it clean here, folks. You see, it's always that right-wing conspiracy theorist element, always. But let's continue on.
Joining me now is NBC News correspondent Yasmin Vesuvian, who witnessed the self-immolation in the park in front of that courtroom, in front of that courthouse. Jim Kavanaugh, retired ATF special agent in charge and MSNBC contributor.
And yeah, I remember Jim Kavanaugh from the Waco siege. I remember that he did some testimony on Capitol Hill. Kind of, I don't want to say made a fool out of himself, but he did himself no favors when they was doing those trials back then.
Michael Beschloss, NBC News presidential historian and friend of the show. Yasmin Vesuvian, I do want to start with you. Tell us about that moment. You were there and witnessed it live.
It was an unbelievable joy moment to see. I got to say, I was on the air live with Chris Jensen earlier on in the day. There was history in the making, right? This was the first jury ever seated for this historic trial, in which we will all be watching very closely over the next 6 weeks. And then I heard a scream out of my right ear in which someone said he is setting himself on fire. And I turned to my right, just off camera, and about 50 feet in front of me, Joy, really half a New York City block, I see a large plume of fire, about 20 to 25 feet high. And I got to say, in my head, I thought for a moment, okay, that is an area that is cordoned off for protesters. I've seen protesters there back in April when the former president was first arraigned. There were protesters there on Monday as well. That number has gone down every single day since then. And so I thought someone set off a fire. And then I looked more closely as I was speaking live with Chris, and I saw the outline of an individual's body. And I thought to myself, that is a human being. They have set themselves on fire, Joy. And his hands were raised in the air as he was standing there, arms wide open. And he burned for 2 minutes. It seemed like a lifetime, but it was 2 to 3 minutes. And then collapsing to the ground as security personnel, members of the FDNY, members of NYPD showed up and were able to put out that fire. And I got to say, Joy, what I saw with my own eyes and what his body had gone through at that moment is unexplainable. And his body then shook, and EMT showed up. They put him on a stretcher and they carried him out. When he lit himself on fire, Joy, I was told by another person, another witness that saw this all go down, that he initially had knelt down, and we learned this from officers as well during the press conference. He had reached into his backpack and he had thrown up into the air a ton of papers. Then he had doused himself in fluid, in lighter fluid of some sort. He had used a lighter then to light himself on fire. On those papers were wide-ranging conspiracy theories, honestly.
See what I mean?
None of it made sense. It was all nonsensical. It was political. Some of it was about the mob. Some of it was about various universities here in New York, as well as throughout the country.
And of course, yeah, a good portion of it is nonsense, and dare I say, bullshit. I mean, but what else would you expect?
They were wide-ranging conspiracy theories. Whether or not that is what motivated this individual to do that, we don't know. But it was a shocking moment, juxtaposing that to what we were also reporting on at that very moment, which was impaneling a jury to sit and decide the fate of the ex-president of the United States. It was an incredible moment to see as a journalist and as a citizen here in New York. It's something that you imagine seeing in a war zone. Mm-hmm. I've reported in war zones before, but you would never imagine seeing in downtown Manhattan, in my hometown, when they're to report on the former president of the United States.
Okay, now we're going to get to Jim Kavanaugh's comments shortly, but okay, now, hear me out, y'all. Most of us know that mental health is a real thing in this country, okay? And as a future politician, I'm all for any type of bills or legislation that increases mental health awareness, as well as putting things in place, putting certain legislation in place to make sure that it's dealt with and it's dealt with consistently and it doesn't become just another issue. So I'll say that. Now, I'm not making fun of this or anything like that, but then I have to come back and ask, okay, to the person that did this, what the hell were you thinking? What possible reason would lead you to do this? What the hell did you expect to gain by doing this? You think that the trial is going to stop because you set yourself on fire? You think Trump or anyone from his circle is going to pay your bills or anything resulting from this? You think that's what's going to happen? You think this is going to disrupt or interrupt anything? You think that this is a good decision to make? I mean, and then chances are, if you burn for 2 minutes, right? I'm pretty sure you're going to have some extensive burns. You're going to have some wounds. So if you're going to be scarred for life, and I don't mean that as a pun here, but if you're going to be scarred for life, then what was the overall purpose? What was the overall purpose here? What were you trying to? What? What do you gain from doing such a thing? How does this help anything? How does it hurt anything? I mean, seriously now. Let's continue on, y'all.
Yeah, I mean, and Jim Kavanaugh, I mean, just to listen to Yasmin explain that, it's harrowing because even that type of protest is not a protest that is typical in the United States. I mean, we did see it with the young man who protested. There was a Free Palestine protester. He was a military veteran, lit himself on fire. That was a rare kind of Western version of this. These are protests that, during the Vietnam War, we would see Tibetan monks do. This was that kind of a protest. So it's very unusual in Western society for someone to do that. And it also doesn't appear to be related to this trial. But this trial is going to attract just intense media attention. It's going to attract media, which means it's going to attract whoever wants to use that media for whatever purposes they have, including tragic ones.
Exactly, Joy. Well, first, let me say, what great reporting here. I mean, you're at the spot of a big event, a trial of a former president, and you witness a horrible suicide, a violent death. That's what this is. That's what Yasmin witnessed and described for us. And this is why we have a free press. And I think Michael can elaborate on that for us deeply. But this is why we have a free society, because we can have correspondents that can report actually what is actually going on, because we can't all be there. But look, this person traveled from Florida. And I've worked these cases where people strap bombs on themselves, they blow themselves up, they kill themselves.
And then that's another thing. You took the time. Well, let me back up. You took time out of your day to travel from Florida to New York, which I can imagine he probably flew there. If you drove, okay, that's even more crazy, because from Florida to New York and vice versa, that's no hop, skip, and a jump. That's a lot of hours to be driving. And then again, to take time out of your day, your quote unquote busy day, to come to New York and perpetrate this as if this was going to help your case or if this was going to stop the proceedings, you were sadly mistaken.
Fire, explosives, firearms. We were always involved in that with ATF. And I think you saw ATF agents on the scene there because they're the government's bomb and arson experts. So yes, people do this to themselves. But the point here is the person traveled from Florida, Joy, all the way to the Trump trial. This is not connected to Trump. It has really nothing to do with him. I read all his writings that he posted. It's nonsensical, as Yasmin clearly reported. It doesn't make any sense. He names everybody, every politician, every Hollywood person, every billionaire, every person on the news, every little name he can think of. He ties them all together in some crackpot conspiracy theory. He's a disturbed person.
You see that crackpot conspiracy theory? A disturbed person. I mean, where have we heard this all before?
It doesn't make any sense. I think the good part of that, though, is, hopefully the judge will take a look at that and to reassure his jurors that this was not directed at the trial, at Mr. Trump, at them, at the court family. I mean, I hope he takes the time to do that. I would even say, to the judge, consider letting the jurors read his rantings, which are only just a couple of pages. But I think once you read it, you will be more relaxed that this was not anything directed at you.
Yeah.
And just to close, the Secret Service protection of Mr. Trump, I've been on many of these details. Let me tell you, they were not at all worried about his security. He's in that large courthouse building. This is outside in a fenced-in area with lots of NYPD and New York County courts police. They're not worried about that. They would have had protective intelligence special agents outside. They would witness that. They were getting it on their earplugs right away. They know exactly what's going on. They know exactly the danger. The danger here is not to Mr. Trump. The danger here is to the court family, the jurors, for other mentally disturbed individuals, emotional people that can come to this location, which is the center now. It kind of becomes a place like the White House or the Capitol, you know, where emotionally disturbed people are drawn to it like a magnet. And so that's the danger going forward.
Hey, everyone. MSNBC has.
All right, we're gonna stop it right there. So, so that's crazy. And again, it's unexplainable. And again, I must ask, what do you hope to achieve and accomplish with doing this? Because, you know, I would assume that you're going to have some extensive injuries from this. And at the end of the day, I got to ask again, what were you looking to accomplish here? Because if your mission was to stop the trial or, you know, would stop it permanently, you failed. And also, this is a hell of a way to make a political statement. You know, we can make all kinds of political statements all day, but this is hardly the way to do it. So, and it just shows the lengths that people will go to. You're going to light yourself on fire. And for what? I mean, what was you going to get out of that? And Trump, Lord knows I'm not defending him in any way, but I guarantee you, he probably looked at this situation and probably was thinking to himself, well, he's a stupid MF for setting himself on fire. You know, I can only imagine that he would say that, because even with the issues that most of us have with Trump, I guarantee you he's not celebrating that as if to say, you know, yeah, he set himself on fire for me. He's one of us. Oh, hell no. We're not doing that. So that's the only thing that I have to say about that. So at the end of the day, man, you know, I have, you know, I'm not trying to be unsympathetic here, but I have no sympathy for anybody who does this, no matter what side of the political aisle that you're on, because you're not solving or helping anything by doing this. You're not. And let me end by saying this, you know, to anybody. If you're caping this hard for the likes of Donald Trump, if you're willing to fall on your sword for this guy, if you're willing to set yourself on fire for this guy, for the cause, if you're willing to die for this guy and for the cause, congratulations, you played yourself. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about this particular video. Let me know what you think about the story. What are your thoughts about this? You know, I would love to know. Also, if you want to become part of Team Discipline, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You know, I'm getting this content out, y'all, and also comment as well. And until the next video, take care. And remember, especially in a case like this, the power of the mind is valuable. Take care, y'all.